afternoon, live from Toronto and the GBKM network. This is the Chat Up Show, the show where we chat about any and everything to do with popular culture. I'm your host, Elizabeth Aloidi, and I hope that you are ready to chat it up with me today. Now, as always, you can keep up with the GBKM network in various ways. You can listen live 24/7 in our web radio station. It's www.gbkm.fm. You can watch live on Facebook and YouTube. It's GBKM TV, where you can like, share, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Join in the conversation. And you can follow us on social media on Instagram at GBKMFM and Twitter at GBKM_FM. Now, you guys, what a few weeks it's been. Hasn't it been a little crazy, a little hectic? There's a lot that's been going on. The world feels like it's come to a standstill for the last 4 months. You know what? It's been a crazy first 6 months of 2020. This has been a year. But before we get into that, I just want to check in with all of you. I hope you're all doing well. How are you doing? Personally, I'm doing okay. The weather is nice outside, so it's reminding me that summer is here, which makes me feel very happy, but also reminded that we are still in the middle of a pandemic and COVID-19 is still very much real. But speaking of the first 6 months of 2020, we've had a lot. We've had what were considered threats of a quote-unquote World War III. We had the Australian wildfires. Then we lost a basketball legend, Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gigi Bryant, and the 7 others who lost their lives in that horrific helicopter crash. May they continue to rest in peace. And then, just as we were getting over that collective mourning process, we were hit by the pandemic. COVID-19 came and really shook things up for a while. And then now we're in the midst of halfway through our 3rd week of global protesting against anti-racism protests and protests to show solidarity for those who have lost their lives to police brutality. So there's a lot that has gone on this year. A lot. But that's okay. We are taking it all in stride. We are dealing with it. We are evolving. We are even seeing some change. Now, this week has brought about quite a few changes, not only in how we're going to move forward through this pandemic, but also in regards to George Floyd's murder case, the charges that have been brought against the 4 officers who were involved. We're also seeing some changes in some legislation across the United States. And we're seeing some shows of solidarity across the world, showing their solidarity against racism and against the history of racism in a lot of countries that we often seem to forget. We seem to forget our history. But this time has really helped us to remember what's gone on in the world, how we've come and ended up in this position and spot that we're in right now. I think that it's put a lot of things into perspective for us, not only the pandemic, but even the protests that are going on across the world right now. It's been a lot. It's been a lot. But first, I want to talk about one major change that happened this week for Ontario. It's that some regions are slowly entering phase 2. Now, as we know, a few months ago, our government announced that we will be going towards reopening different businesses and reopening the economy across the province in different phases, in 3 phases. Phase 1 is complete, and now some regions are moving on ahead into phase 2. Now, phase 1 was about protecting and supporting, with $17 billion targeted towards support and relief. And now phase 2 is all about restarting with a gradual, staged approach, and it sure is gradual. The majority of Ontario's public health regions will move forward into phase 2 on June 12th. However, Toronto will not be a part of that because we are not doing enough, apparently, to keep physical distancing and to stay safe. So Toronto, we need to do better so that we can move into the next phase of reopening along with the rest of our province. Now, Toronto is not the only region that isn't reopening. We also see that Windsor and Niagara are not included on the list of regions moving forward into phase 2. We will remain in phase 1 with weekly updates from the government on the ongoing assessment of these regions to determine if we will be able to then move into phase 2 soon. So I'm sorry, Toronto, especially since that is GBKM HQ, summer plans might have to slow down a little bit while we're still keeping up with our physical distancing. We're still remembering that we are in the middle of a pandemic. Though the weather looks great outside and we're still ready to get out and socialize again, we still have our restrictions, okay? So though across the province we are allowed to gather up to 10 people